Corporal Amora Nairi had survived collapsing asteroids, orbital skirmishes, and one very angry Skarn predator. Yet somehow, nothing felt as dangerous as standing in the High Council chamber of the Zalari Dominion, surrounded by beings whose eyes glowed with the colors of dying suns, staring at her like she was a misdelivered package. The floor beneath her boots hummed faintly, a vibration that seemed to echo into her chest, and walls of transparent alloy refracted the chamber's light into dizzying patterns. Floating symbols circled the Grand Chancellor's dais, rearranging themselves like living hieroglyphs, whispering secrets only they could understand. Amora straightened her back, but her combat fatigues did little to hide the dust and sweat from her last mission. Corporal Nairi, the Grand Chancellor intoned, her voice a symphony of multiple tones layered at once, your survival of the siege of Varthex 9 has earned you a most unusual honor. Amora blinked, unsure if she should bow or duck. She imagined something practical, a commendation, maybe a new exosuit with reinforced plating. Instead, two tiny figures floated forward, each no taller than a meter, shimmering faintly like liquid starlight. Their silver hair seemed to catch the ambient glow of the chamber, twisting it into delicate arcs. I am Lysra, and this is Fen, the first said, voice precise, musical, but carrying an authority that startled her. We are your assigned guides. Assigned, Fen added, bowing lightly, not gifted. Not rewarded. Assigned. Amora opened her mouth, then closed it. She wasn't sure what to do with two miniature alien guides. She was a soldier, not a caretaker of tiny glowing scholars. Lysra stepped closer, her eyes gleaming with mild amusement. We will educate you in the ways of the Zalari. Not as servants. Not as companions. As guardians of your potential. Fen unfolded a holographic tablet, projecting a swirling map of the Varthex sector. Stars twisted and pulsed in real time. These are the paths your choices have taken you, Fen explained. Even the ones you think are mistakes were predicted. Even the ones you think were accidents were necessary. Amora's stomach did a flip. So, my heroics were pre-planned homework. Lysra tilted her head. Potential recognized early is not destiny. It is preparation. Days aboard the Starlancer, Amora's new ship, were chaotic. Her quarters, once modest and practical, became a miniature academy run by Lysra and Fen. Holographic star maps spun over her bed. Tiny crystalline devices hovered mid-air, constantly analyzing her posture, her breathing, even the rhythm of her thoughts. You walk too loudly, Lysra noted one morning, perching on her desk. Your footsteps disturb the energy flow. Amora laughed, a short bark that made Fen's ears twitch in surprise. Humans have no volume control, she said. The disruption is tolerable, Lysra murmured. By the end of the week, Amora was tracing glowing sigils in the observation deck, balancing on one foot as Lysra barked orders in a language that sounded like bells in a windstorm. Fen quizzed her on star harmonics, forcing her to calculate gravitational flux while sipping a cup of bioluminescent tea that tingled across her tongue. Every mistake caused a small flare of light, harmless but startling, that made the ship's crew glance her way in curiosity. Amora learned to laugh at the lessons. She learned to listen. And slowly, she learned to trust her guides. Lysra's meticulous attention to detail, Fen's quiet wisdom, it was more than education. It was partnership. One night, as the Starlancer drifted near the luminar expanse, Amora noticed a pulse on the ship's sensors, a rhythm like a heartbeat echoing through deep space. Lysra and Fen exchanged tense glances. A rift, Lysra whispered, her long ears twitching. A quantum anomaly. Extremely rare. Extremely dangerous. And we're flying straight into it, Amora muttered. The crew froze, waiting. Fen's eyes widened. Your human intuition will be tested. Amora swallowed. She had spent weeks learning Pixari harmonic sequences, tracing flows of energy and light across star maps. She had learned to see patterns in chaos. Now, staring at the rift's pulsing energy, she realized she understood it in a way no one else could. The rotational rhythm, she said, almost to herself, we need to mirror it. Timing, flow, precision. Lysra's eyes widened. The human suggested the correct solution. Fenn's ears twitched in delight. She, has achieved what we thought impossible. Amora slammed her hands on the console, guiding the ship with a precision born of instinct and training. The rift's gravitational waves slammed against the hull, systems flickered, alarms screamed, but she matched the rift's oscillations perfectly. Lysra adjusted the harmonic stabilizers. Fenn whispered the correction sequences. Together, they became one mind, one will, steering the Starlancer through chaos. With a blinding flare of silver light, the ship emerged unscathed on the other side. The crew cheered. Lysra collapsed dramatically onto Amora's shoulder. "We survived because of my flawless instruction," she declared. Fenn added softly, "and because the human adapted. Remarkably." Amora smiled, exhausted. "No more comments about my footsteps." Lysra's ears twitched. Negotiable. Life aboard the Starlancer settled into a strange rhythm. Amora, Lysra, and Fenn became an inseparable trio. Lessons, laughter, minor explosions. Each day brought a new challenge. Amora taught Lysra the subtlety of human humor, which Lysra catalogued with strict precision. Fenn whispered philosophical insights at odd moments, making her crew laugh at absurdity they didn't fully understand. But peace was fragile. One day, while charting a seemingly empty sector, the Starlancer detected an unregistered vessel clinging to the hull. Alarms screamed. Glittering spores poured from the intruder, coating the docking bay. Lysra sneezed, Fenn flinched, and Amora waved the stardust away. "It's harmless," Amora said, though she wasn't certain. "Socially dangerous, maybe." The crew cleaned the spores, but the incident forged deeper trust between the three. They spent hours debating luck, chaos, and choice. Lysra admitted she had once failed a harmonic composition because she tried to correct the instructor. Fenn confessed she had joined the scholars not out of passion, but out of fear of disappointing her family. Amora revealed she had never expected to survive long enough to be called a hero. For the first time, they saw one another not as alien, human, or scholar, but as companions bound by shared experience. Weeks later, the Starlancer encountered a spatial anomaly unlike anything Amora had trained for, a twisting, silver spiral tearing through reality itself. The crew froze. Lysra and Fenn looked at her expectantly. Amora's pulse steadied. She had learned their patterns, absorbed their methods, and adapted them to herself. She guided the ship into the spiral, countering each distortion, matching its rhythm. Lysra stabilized the consoles. Fenn predicted the fluctuations before they occurred. Together, they threaded the Starlancer through the anomaly like dancers in perfect sync. When they emerged, the silence was deafening. Then cheers erupted across the bridge. Lysra leaned against Amora, pretending to swoon. Fenn offered a small, satisfied smile. Amora exhaled, realizing something remarkable. She was no longer just a soldier. She was a navigator, a protector, a human who had tamed the stars with two unlikely allies at her side. In the quiet hours, they gathered in the observation deck, three figures bathed in moonlight from distant satellites. Lysra perched lightly beside her. Fenn leaned on her arm. The universe stretched wide and infinite, but somehow smaller, warmer, safer. "You have changed," Fenn said softly. "You walk now with purpose." "Still too loud," Lysra added, ears twitching. Amora laughed, a genuine sound that echoed across the deck. "I wouldn't have it any other way." Together, they watched distant nebulae swirl. Three unlikely explorers, bound by choice, trust, and curiosity, ready for whatever the universe might throw at them next. For the first time in her life, Amora Nairi understood the meaning of being more than human. She understood the meaning of family. And she knew that whatever cosmic trials awaited them, they would face them not as soldier and scholars, not as alien and human, but as something stronger, a constellation forged in chaos, brilliance, and unwavering trust. The Starlancer had barely recovered from the rift incident when the crew detected a faint transmission, a pulse of sound and light that seemed almost alive. Amora, Lysra, and Fenn crowded around the sensors, eyes wide. The signal was encrypted in multiple layers of harmonic frequencies, some Zalari, some entirely alien. "It's not from any known civilization," Lysra said, tapping the console. Her ears twitched nervously. It resonates like a heartbeat, but not biological. Artificial and ancient. Fen leaned closer, her silver braids brushing Amora's shoulder. It predates the archives. Whoever sent this, they exist outside time as we know it. Amora's gut tightened. And they just woke up. That is my hypothesis, Lysra said softly. And I do not like hypotheses that hum. The three of them stared at the pulsing signal, silent, until a flicker across the display made the chamber shiver. A ghostly projection appeared in the center of the bridge, a holographic figure wrapped in cascading energy. Its eyes, or what seemed like eyes, glowed like twin quasars. I am called Ilthar, the figure said, voice deep, echoing in 3 dimensions at once. I require a champion. Amora blinked. Champion. Like, for a sport. Fen's ears twitched in alarm. Not a game. This entity, it tests civilizations. The outcome decides survival. Ilthar's projection expanded, revealing a swirling pattern of constellations she had never seen. Entire stars bent toward a central point, energy streaming like molten glass. Your species demonstrates potential. Humans may ascend, or fail. Your allies may not survive. The bridge fell silent. Amora's pulse raced. So, this is another cosmic exam. Yes, Lysra said, her voice unusually tight. And unlike the rift, failure is permanent. Amora swallowed hard. Then we don't fail. Over the next cycle, the Starlancer followed the signal to an uncharted nebula, a dense cloud of violet and silver that warped space itself. The crew braced as the ship passed through shimmering gravitational eddies that bent the light like liquid mirrors. This nebula, it's alive, Fen whispered, clutching the console. It reacts to thought, sound, even emotional intent. Amora tested a rudimentary scan, and her stomach dropped. The nebula's readings were chaotic, defying logic. Pulses of energy oscillated faster than even the Pixari sequences could track. It wasn't just a hazard, it was a predator. You're saying this nebula hunts? Amora asked, brow furrowed. Yes, Lysra replied. It seeks the unprepared. It feeds on hesitation, doubt, and fear. A small tremor shook the ship. Amora steadied herself against the rail, feeling a thrill she didn't expect. This wasn't a battlefield in space. This was something new. Something that would test not just their skills, but their hearts. 4 days, the three worked tirelessly, decoding the nebula's pulses, learning its language of light and gravity. Amora's human intuition, Lysra's harmonic precision, and Fen's philosophical foresight became one. We must mirror its patterns, Amora explained during one long observation session. Her hands traced a complex sequence of glyphs in the air, each gesture causing the nebula to pulse in response. It learns from our reactions. Patience, confidence, and coordination are weapons here. Lysra perched on the console, ears twitching as she refined the harmonic frequencies. Fen whispered strategies, often contradictory, forcing Amora to think creatively. The human adapts beyond expectation, Lysra murmured. The nebula recognizes that. It respects it. Respect doesn't mean it won't kill us, Amora muttered, but she didn't falter. Night cycles blurred into one another. The crew's quarters became a tangle of projected star maps and energy conduits. Fen had grown fascinated by human emotions, cataloging Amora's reactions, while Lysra experimented with translating human humor into harmonic sequences. One evening, after a particularly exhausting maneuver to avoid a gravity spike that could have torn the ship apart, Amora slumped against the observation deck. You're improving, Lysra said softly, landing on the edge of the rail. Her long ears drooped slightly, a rare sign of fatigue. Fen tilted her head. Your coordination no longer triggers the nebula's reactive waves. You've learned to think as it thinks. Amora let out a breath. I'm still human, she muttered. I make mistakes. I fail. Failures are not permanent, Lysra corrected. Only stagnation is fatal. You adapt. You survive. That is why you were chosen. Their bond deepened. Small moments became profound, Lysra tapping Amora's shoulder when she hesitated, Fen whispering forgotten proverbs of patience, Amora teaching them simple human games to lighten the constant tension. Humor threaded through their days, a fragile shield against exhaustion and fear. But the nebula was patient. It waited. And when it struck without warning. A sudden tremor threw the Starlancer off course. Consoles flickered, alarms screamed. The nebula had shifted, its pulses converging into a tight spiral around the ship. "It's attempting to assimilate us," Lysra said, eyes wide. "It will absorb our energy, our patterns, everything." Amora's hands flew over the controls. "Then we fight back. Together." For hours, they maneuvered through the nebula's coils. Amora traced sequences in sync with Lysra's harmonics, while Fen predicted the pulses before they came. Every mistake sent shards of energy slamming into the hull. The ship groaned and screamed like a living thing, systems flaring and rebooting. At one point, Amora had to physically hold Fen steady while Lysra recalibrated the harmonic stabilizers. The nebula responded to fear, and for the first time, she understood. Hesitation was their greatest enemy. "You can do this," Amora whispered to her companions. "I trust you. I need you to trust me." Lysra and Fen exchanged glances, and in that moment, the bond between them solidified. They moved as one, three minds intertwined with purpose, courage, and determination. Hours later, exhausted and battered, the Starlancer emerged from the nebula. The ship shimmered, hull scorched, but intact. The crew cheered, though their voices were hoarse. Amora slumped into a chair, trying to catch her breath. Lysra landed lightly on her shoulder. "You exceeded all expectations," she said. "Even the entity, Ilfar, has recognized it." Fen nodded, her eyes soft. "You are no longer just human. You are something more. A bridge between species, between thought and instinct, between survival and excellence." Amora laughed, a short, relieved bark. "That sounds like a compliment." "It is," Lysra said. "A truth." The following days were quieter, though the nebula still pulsed in the distance, a reminder that the universe was alive, aware, and full of challenge. The Starlancer traveled through new sectors, discovering derelict starships, lost colonies, and ancient relics whose purpose had been forgotten for millennia. Amora, Lysra, and Fen continued their partnership, teaching, learning, and adapting. Amora taught them patience and humor. Lysra taught precision and discipline. Fen taught foresight and observation. Together, they became more than soldier and scholars. They were a unit, a constellation, a force capable of facing anything the galaxy could throw at them. Yet even as they explored, a sense of unease lingered. The signal from Ilfar had not faded, it had only grown stronger. Whatever challenge lay ahead, Amora knew it would test not just their skill, but their trust, courage, and very humanity. And she was ready. For she had learned something that no simulation, battle, or alien scholar could teach. The human mind could adapt, endure, and even thrive in ways no other species could. And with Lysra and Fen at her side, there was nothing in the galaxy that could stop them. The stars stretched out before them, infinite and glittering. Somewhere in the darkness, Ilfar waited. But Amora Nairi, the human who tamed the stars, had no intention of failing. Together, they would face whatever the universe had in store.